Eccoci qui ragazzi, buonasera, mancano 7 minuti, 7 minuti a questo annuncio, abbassiamo un pochino l'audio. Ok, se no non mi sentite, così deve andare bene, spero di sì. Ciao Cortex, ciao Fra, chi sei? Francesco, Claudio? Allora ragazzi, abbiate pazienza oggi. Ma no, non sia mai. Allora raga, abbiate pazienza perché io non ci vedo oggi, perché sono appena tornato dall'oculista che mi ha messo le gocce e quindi sono proprio ciecatissimo. Abbiate pazienza. Vediamo un po'. Ficciacata, che ho fatto? Mannaggia la miseria, scusate.
Che stai parlando?
Chiudi, che c'ho da fare ora.
Ciao.
E così, ciao. Hai capito? Vediamo un po', mandate un po' di messaggi e aspettiamo sti 5 minuti. È stata tutta una cosa molto veloce. Chissà che ci diranno. Parleranno in inglese sicuramente. Cercheremo di seguirli il più possibile. Mamma mia, di nuovo Baldur's Gate, ragazzi. Non ci posso credere. Baldur's Gate 3. E noi ci siamo e ce lo seguiamo in diretta. Yamma bella. Vediamo un po', Altro che devo aver sbagliato a scrivere pure il titolo. Baldur's... Come sta scritto bene? Sì, no, aspettate. Baldur's Gate. Ok. Mettiamo pure panel che si chiama proprio così. From Hell. Cortex, che mi dici? Tutto a posto? No, non esce. Però oggi viene annunciato. Oggi viene annunciato l'inizio dell'accesso anticipato. Quindi io lo comprerò e ce lo vedremo anche in accesso anticipato. Chiaro che poi la release del gioco dovrebbe essere l'anno prossimo, inoltrato. Però l'accesso anticipato dovrebbe uscire, penso, forse, boh, non lo so, speriamo subito. Già anche settembre potrebbe essere un buon mese, perché doveva già uscire in verità, ma è stato rimandato. A meno che ora non fanno una mega sorpresona e partirà da qui a poco. Staremo a vedere. Inizialmente uscirà in accesso anticipato su Steam, ma uscirà in accesso anticipato anche su Google Stadia. Quindi wow, vedremo un po'. Io ovviamente ora lo prenderò per PC, ragazzi, perché ormai ce l'ho il PC buono, lo sfruttiamo. E mo faranno l'annuncione e si me lo mette in vendita e noi accettiamo. No, vabbè, sarà sempre in accesso anticipato. Un po' come hanno fatto anche con gli altri due titoli, Divinity Original Sin e Divinity Original Sin 2, che secondo me, ragazzi, visto il nostro canale dedito ai titoli GDR, giochi di ruolo, ce li potremmo anche giocare. Mo vediamo, i titoli, mo ce l'abbiamo diversi giochi da fare, dobbiamo fare il Beholder, Grimrock, Neverwinter Nights, poi magari ci dobbiamo fare anche Neverwinter Nights 2, tanta roba, insomma di giochi ne abbiamo ragazzi, di giochi ne abbiamo e ce li faremo. Vabbè, ma con i Larian si sfonda una porta aperta, nel senso che loro sono bravi, quindi va bene così, va bene così. Vediamo se posso mettere i sottotitoli. No, non si possono mettere. Non si possono mettere, siamo a 1080 comunque, il che è buono. Però non posso mettere i sottotitoli, mi dispiace. Vero peccato. Almeno in inglese sarebbe stata una cosa figa. Vediamo un po', no. Come mai? Strano. Vai. Ok, meno di un minuto ragazzi. Cambiamo scena. Buoni. Eccoci qua. Io mi metto qui. Se dà fastidio sono già pronto con la prossima schermata senza la mia webcam. Così vediamo un po'. È perché è il mio segnale che io non lo lancio bene. Oppure staranno 3000 persone lì da te a scaricare, fare e dire. Se è così abbasso. Non serve che la faccia a 1080 allora. Ho cambiato la webcam, mi è arrivata quella che c'avevo. Guarda che qualità. Oh, eccoci. Attenzione raga, eccoci. Eccoci qua. Aspetta, qua mi tolgo. Ok. Un altro filmato. No, è lo stesso che vedemmo all'epoca. Yamia. Comunque sai che pure a me fa lo scattino. Beh, allora 1080 è pesante, sembra che non lo è, ma lo è. È così che nascono. Vedi, pure a me fa lo scattino. Forse devo abbassare anch'io a 720. Oh, che schifo. Bellissimo. Vermicelli in brodo. Wow. È vero? Sì. Però, porca miseria, ci sanno fare. Guardali che meraviglia. La cinematic è strepitosa. Mamma mia. Guarda che fa lo scattino. Ma questo dipende da loro, non da me, ragazzi. Porca miseria. Questo lo vedemmo comunque, eh. Porca miseria, pure io a Dungeons and Dragons voglio fare le entrate a cavallo di un drago. Ce l'avevo quando giocavo, sai? Ma c'avevamo i personaggi epici. Urca! Che botta! Vai, l'ha ripreso! Mannaggia questo scattino! Porca miseria, gli ha soffiato dentro! Oi! Ah, riescono a seguirlo! Eh no, dai! Mo la abbasso, me la metto a 7,20. Oh, ammazza come gli soffia comunque. Ai Protoss sono simili. Ma questo mi sa che è nuovo. No, no, questo pure lo vedemmo. Wow. Però questa parte non me la ricordo io, Gli imp. Oh, che spettacolo, ragazzi. Allora, aspettate un attimo. Che spettacolo. Eccoci. Guardate chi ci sta, carissimo.
I'm Jeff Keighley, a big day for Baldur
Jeff,
3 and
dai Game Awards.
Information to guys about the game, but first of all, we started with that incredible CG. You've seen some of that before, but of course the end was brand new. With the world premiere of the full
L'avevo detto, la fine era nuova, non me la ricordavo.
From the looks of it, as you saw right there, we are going to hell in this game, and we're going to learn a lot about that reveal and so much more today. But we're not going to hell alone.
Scopriremo tanto altro oggi.
Panel to give you all the inside scoop on early access for BG3. I'm joined by Mr. Larian himself, creative director Sven from Larian, of course, and
guardate il pirla di Sven come si è
Chris
messo.
Perkins from Wizards of the Coast, and Larian's legendary writer Adam Smith. Guys, I have to say, Chris, I guess you didn't get the memo about the set here. It's like these guys.
No, I did not. I'm feeling a little set envy.
Però gli lagga anche a loro un po' la live.
Adam's got the lights. I love it. You guys are full on method. It's a big day for BG3 fans. We've been waiting for details on early access, and I've seen the rundown, guys. Don't worry, we are going to get a date out of these guys by the end of the stream. They promised me. But first of all, let's talk a bit about the game. What was just revealed, Sven? The journey in Baldur's Gate 3 will actually start in Avernus, which is, you know, the first layer of hell here. Tell us a bit about what we just saw and how that's going to tie into the game.
Ok.
Yeah, so...
Che abbiamo appena visto.
So we are in a lot of trouble. We were kidnapped. We were snatched by these mind flayers, these alien creatures. They put us aboard this nautiloid. They put a tadpole through our eye, so that's already not very pleasant. Then they were chased by dragons. They tried to escape from these dragons. They decided it was a really good idea to go to hell, to Avernus, the first layer of the 9 hells, to try and to escape these red dragons. But these red dragons managed to follow them. But not only that, they managed to teleport themselves right into the middle of a big conflict between devils and demons. And so, me as a player, I'm going to try to figure out, as a level 1 character, how the
Insomma,
hell am I going to get out of
praticamente
here?
per sfuggire
And
da
so
questi
our
draghi,
journey
ok, ci siamo
begins
ritrovati in
the
mezzo
middle
alla
of the
battaglia
Blood War.
tra demoni
The
e
Blood War is
diavoli.
a big
Ma demoni e
thing,
diavoli sono due cose
in,
differenti,
Dungeons and
quindi
Dragons.
questo
And
mi
as a matter of fact,
mancava.
actually, Chris recently, together with his colleagues at Wizard of the Coast, released a book about that, which was Descent into Avernus.
Oh, there's
There you
the
go.
book itself. Tell us about it.
Eccolo qua, Descent to Avernus. I tizi, vabbè, i tizi lo sappiamo, sono i mind flyer, ragazzi che hanno praticamente una loro abilità, il controllo mentale delle persone, molto
evil
forte.
creatures of entropy that want to destroy everything, and devils who are evil subjugators and overlords who want to control everything. And that in and of itself doesn't sound like a bad thing until you realize
Quindi i diavoli
that the
vogliono
blood tends
controllare
to
i
spill
demoni.
all over the place and onto other planes, pretty much anywhere. And so it's really just kind of bad for everybody. And it's been going on for such a long time, longer than anybody can remember, and is not to end anytime soon.
Quindi siamo letteralmente nell'inferno, cioè
Yeah.
nel piano
so-
dimensionale dell'inferno proprio.
And as far as hell is concerned, so if you don't know much about the 9 hells, there are 9 layers of the hells, and
Ci sono
Avernus is the
9
topmost layer.
piani dell'inferno.
That is where demons are constantly invading, and devils are constantly trying to repel them. And so it's this
Quindi i demoni provano costantemente ad invaderli e i demoni a cacciarli.
Flying citadels, like you saw in the introduction. And
And in Descent
it's
into
really
Avernus, sorry, yeah, so we talk about in Descent into Avernus, there's a cataclysmic event where the Blood War does spill over into Faerun, and it's a city called Elturel, which is actually dragged into hell. This all happens in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, the D&D adventure module. When we started to build Baldur's
Ciao,
Gate 3, we
Antonio.
had to decide what actually happened to Elturel at the end of that adventure, because like any good adventure, like any good role-playing game, there's many different ways that story can go. In our story, Elturel is actually, it is saved, but that's not the end of it. It's a cataclysmic event. It has aftershocks that are still passing through the world. So when we regain control of the Nautiloid, we bring ourselves back to Faerun and we crash land. And we crash land somewhere between Baldur's Gate, which is on the west and the Sword Coast, and Elturel. And we're going to see the aftermath of Elturel's descent. There are trains of refugees traveling through this area, and we're going to get caught up in their stories. We can help them, we can hinder them. We can
Ha
get
parlato un po'
involved in
della
their
trama,
stories.
ragazzi. Io mo
But
non
that's
so se
not
ve la
our
voglio
story.
dire
Our story goes
oppure...
back
Però
to
poi magari facciamo un
inside
video
our brain.
specifico, una
And
live
to talk a little
specifica
bit
su
about
questo
that,
e ne parleremo.
what that's actually doing inside us right now.
Yeah, so mind flayers, they're awful. But mind flayers do not procreate the way most other creatures do. The way they procreate
Sta parlando
is
dei
through a
mind
process
flyer e
called
di come si
ceremony,
riproducono.
in which they implant this parasite into
Che
a
l'abbiamo
humanoid
visto, no? Il
host.
vermicello
And
nell'occhio,
over
è il loro
time,
modo di
the
riprodursi.
parasite transforms the host magically into a fully grown adult mind flayer.
Ah, e quel
And
parassito
it's an
trasforma
absolutely horrific and
l'ospite
disturbing process.
in un vero e
And
proprio mind flyer già
once you
cresciuto,
become
cioè
a mind
proprio già
flayer, of course, you
formato.
don't have much in the way of memories of your past you are basically one of them.
Ah, ok. Se ho capito bene, dimentichi anche tutto.
Is a bit different. We already revealed a little bit about that. So as we start panicking and we figured out a way out of hell, we are going to try to figure out how the hell are we going to get rid of this tadpole that's inside of us. And as we're doing that, we'll learn things about the tadpole, and we'll learn that we actually don't have a lot of days left ahead of us. And then suddenly something strange starts happening. We start gaining strange powers. We start not transforming into a mind player, which is good, we think. And some of us in our party start thinking, like, maybe this infection is not such a bad thing. Maybe there's something to be said for it, because like for certain
è bellissima questa cosa, aspettate, ora ve la dico.
And so there's a rift that appears in the party. Certain characters say like, well, we need to get rid of this thing. We can't leave it inside of us. Some say, well, maybe we should figure out first what's going on here. Maybe we can find a way of controlling it. And then others say,
ok,
like, hell yeah,
praticamente,
really cool.
velocemente, quando noi veniamo liberati, siccome comunque abbiamo già questo vermicello dentro di noi, cominciamo a vedere cose strane, addirittura anche ad avere dei poteri, tant'è che poi i nostri personaggi, la nostra avventura, il nostro personaggio, cominciano a chiedersi perché togliercelo se magari possiamo sfruttarlo, controllarlo e avere questi poteri, no? Però il nostro compito è liberarcene, perché sennò veniamo trasformati, in teoria. Un tiefling, guardate.
What do you have to lose? And so what's cool is that in multiplayer, when you have
c'è il multiplayer, come in Divinity Original Sin.
They get to decide what they're going to do. So, for instance, Chris, you could say, hell no, I'm never going to live with this tadpole. And Adam could say, well, hell yeah, I'm going to do that. And I say somewhere in between. And so maybe Adam makes a pact with the devil so he can get the best of the tadpole. He doesn't transform into a mind flayer. And so
that is such a mistake.
Deals with the devil.
That would be a huge
Beh, come al solito penso che poi sarà a noi fare le varie scelte. Il gioco ovviamente prenderà la direzione in cui noi vogliamo andare, cioè le scelte che facciamo ovviamente ci porteranno in percorsi completamente diversi.
Obviously, you know,
come al solito, no?
The devil and the motivation. You talked about sort of, wanting your soul and these deals. Why would you want to make a deal?
Well,
magari.
I think a lot of
Non ho capito la domanda, scusate.
You know, I mean, I'm an expert on making mistakes, so I will take this. I may just be curious. I may just want to see what happens. I may be seduced by the devil. They're charismatic. But fundamentally, I have a serious problem, and maybe this devil can help with the problem. But Chris, if you could just talk about what the devil
Lui c'ha le mie
wants,
stesse
what do they
cuffie.
actually want from me?
So in the nine hells, souls are the currency of the realm. For a devil to acquire a soul, that's great for them because they can trade that soul in essentially to rise in power in the hierarchy that kind of rules the nine hells. So that's really what they want, souls, souls, souls. And in order to get them, though, they have to corrupt them first. They can't just grab anybody's soul. They have to lead.
Stanno ancora parlando di lore, comunque ragazzi, di background, dei 9 piani dell'inferno, della società, dei demoni, dei dei, dei diavoli.
That's what the devil wants to happen. And so they're always orchestrating events to try to make that happen. And they can do it through seduction, they can do it through deception. However they want to do it is fine. But that's their end game.
Oh.
Speaking of decisions and choices, we're going to see a lot of gameplay today, and of course at the heart of the game,
ci vediamo anche il gameplay, raga.
We're going to talk a bit about Crusher, who will be returning here for some
La indossa
interactive moments
davvero,
throughout the stream.
no.
Adam, why don't you tell us a bit about Crusher and Crusher's role?
Yeah, so we're going to move away from devils briefly and look at a situation some of you may have seen before. We're going to see different aspects of that. So,
Fantastico.
A big shout out to the BG3 subreddit. You guys know I love goblins. I love you. This is a scene where we've actually become friends with some goblins.
Antonio, non ti aveva visto Cortex che l'hai salutato qui?
And we're interacting with them in a friendly way. We've not gone in bashing their heads. We've decided, hey,
Antonio,
let's play
Alessandro.
cool with them. So we're at a party. We're having a good time. We're having a real good time with these goblins. But then we Crusher. And Crusher's obnoxious. He's unpleasant. He's the guy who's...
Ok.
He's the death of the party. So we're going to meet him, and we're going to see how this interaction goes, I think, now, yeah?
Ah! Te l'ho detto. Eccolo qua, e ci sta. Ecco il gameplay, guarda i nani, Ale, sei arrivato proprio in
joining us again. He's
punto.
going to be
Bellissimo il
driving the gameplay
nano,
here,
come
and lead us
piacciono a
all the way,
me.
to Crusher, and then you guys are going to get to make the decisions. Now, while he's doing that, can I just
Che
do like a big
figata.
shout out?
Posso
Try to
rimanere
make
con la
different
telecamera, non
decisions than you did
copro
last time,
niente.
community. So try to not make the same decision, so you can see how this pans out differently. It's up to you. I mean, like, but I would sincerely advise you to go in a
Questi che
different direction.
sono? Fling? No, Goblin.
Oh, you got him good.
And who are you?
Sono Goblin.
Dwarves.
Oh no.
Think you rule the world. Ha! Everyone says that. And then they spit in our faces. But no.
Il gioco sarà tradotto in italiano, raga, il gioco sarà tradotto in italiano, quindi non vi preoccupate.
You better learn your place. Go on.
Madonna che bel nano, finalmente. Guarda col naso a patata.
Right off your face.
End him or leave him. But don't
E
you...
lei è una razza, non mi ricordo il nome della razza ora, la sua, mannaggia.
All right.
Do I need to rip your ear shells off? You heard me.
There's our
Che gli
choice.
fa vedere?
4 options. So in the chat, you guys can select.
Ok, queste sono le 4
which one
scelte.
we
A
should,
seconda di quello che scegliamo,
actively
ragazzi, poi
choose
succederà
here, and then we'll come
qualcosa
back a little
di
bit later in the
diverso.
stream
Vado ad accendere
and,
la
see
luce e
how
arrivo
this sequence
subito.
plays out based on the community. But guys, which one would you suggest the audience pick? Let's sway them out of the 4 options here. Let's start with you.
Esatto, esatto, Ale,
I've got a
esatto.
bit of a rogue
Ghichianchi.
temperament, and I'm kind of tempted by whatever
Come
that
diavolo
is
si
on his
pronuncia?
foot there. So I'm of a mind to go with option 1.
Sven?
And, oh, go on, Sven.
All right. No, go ahead, Adam. I go ahead.
Well, I already
Ma
said I
Sven
have
lo
my
sa,
goblins,
scusa,
so
la sua,
kids and
fa
I
lui il
got
gioco.
the kids.
Fai scegliere a chi non conosce.
Sven?
So I'm
Sto
intent on
sudando,
showing players a different outcome than they picked last time. I'm pretty sure they're going to pick exactly the same thing they picked last time because that's how people are. But in the case that they want to follow my advice, I would suggest that we spit in his face. I mean, like, I think that's a very powerful move. On top of that, Alizal is going to prove.
Dice che lui
it.
avrebbe
So I
scelto
would
di
just go for
sputargli in
spit his face.
faccia.
All right, well, 3 of the 4 options are selected. You guys, again, vote in the chat, and then we'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll play out the sequence with your choice, and this will continue on kind of throughout the stream.
Madonna.
While we tally results in the chat, wanted to ask you guys on just development of BG3, how things are progressing on the game. You know, obviously it's been a difficult year
Stiamo parlando con la
for all of
chat,
us,
insomma,
especially
non ce
game
ne frega
developers
per ora.
working from home in this COVID pandemic world. So Sven, wanted to ask you, like, how is development going? We know we're gonna get an early access date out of you guys.
Lui è
We'll go back to the
canadese.
stream here.
È l'organizzatore dei Games
What's it
Awards
been like
che si fanno a
to make
dicembre,
BG3 this year? Are things progressing
dove
as you like?
eleggono il gioco dell'anno.
Yeah, it's going. I mean, like, the question how
Jeff.
development is going ever since we started on this. I think I had the guys from Wizards like ask me like
Lui è Sven,
how's it
il
going? How's it going? How's it
capo
going? So I'll be very happy that we
CEO
can say,
dei
well, actually,
Larian
that's something to
Studios.
show now, so that
Sono
you can
del
actually go and
Belgio
play, and,
loro.
I think people will like. So, but it's going. It's slower than we had hoped, of course. But we're getting there. We got pretty much all of our content in there. We managed to get our recording studios back online, which was a big thing. So they're going to be recording the final bits
Ottimo.
this month. So that's good. We are making progress. Work from home. Luckily, we have studios scattered around the world, so several of them are booted up again. So we're working at 50-60% capacity, so that's also really good. So we're in a good shape to actually push this thing through and get it into the hands of players so that at least they can start fooling around with early access. We would probably already actually have been able to ship early access if we hadn't fallen into some of our old traps. One of these is our ability to underestimate exactly how much we have to add. It seems like we have this counter where we see like, okay, these are the amount of dialogues in the game, this is the amount of dialogues that are recorded, this is the amount of cinematics that are finished, and that counter is supposed to go to 100%, and then we can ship the early access content. But the thing this counter has been doing, it went from 70 to 80 to 90 to 80 to 70 to 60 to 70 to 80 and so forth. And recently it's been trying to get to 100%, and it's been hovering around 95% since forever.
Mitica, già l'ha passata di 90.
Of course, to do with the fact that for each dialogue we write, 2 new dialogues pop up as edge cases appear. Right, Adam?
Yeah, first of all, sorry.
Secondo me sta sudando male, guardatelo.
Second of all, there are multiple reasons for this.
C'è la fronte rossa, guardate, anche la
scales
cazzo
that I've worked
d'armatura.
on, and one of the things that we are very, very keen to do is to make
Ma è
sure
pesantissimo,
that
ti sentite il
reactive
rumore
as
che
we
fa
can
quando si
possibly make
muove?
it, because that benefits all of you when so as we build a situation, as we build a quest, as we build a dialogue, what we find is that somebody within the team or somebody within a different department might say, well, I'd love to be able to do that.
La maglia la
Or,
voglio,
I'm gonna
Ale.
approach from
Ma
this
dai, è
angle,
bella
I'm
la
gonna break
maglia.
the timing of this and the chronology of it. And we don't say no, we say yes, and then we adapt to that, and we make sure that the dialogue makes sense, that the way the world reacts makes sense, and that it remembers what you did. And that just adds complexity onto complexity, and it makes for a really, really satisfying experience. And the other part of that is that if somebody has a really cool idea, then it tends to find its way into the game. And we have a lot of really smart people who have really good ideas, and those ideas do end up in the game on the whole. And it goes further than that. Sometimes we have a very small idea and it blossoms and it grows and it ends up in the game. And I think Sven has a particular example of something that really demonstrates.
Ah, la barretta quella lì, è vero,
Absolutely,
è vero.
I got this real cool button that I'm gonna hit right now for the first time. It's like, okay, you hit right.
World Premiere,
Oh,
attenzione.
you know, I like a good world premiere.
So-
There you go.
Yeah, hold on, wait until you'll see.
Ah no,
until
ma
you
che
see
era?
my
Sta
other
la
button.
non seguito, scusate.
We're a company that iterates a lot, as Adam said, and we give a lot of room for what is a good idea. So a couple of weeks ago, and this is literally only a couple of weeks ago, and I picked this example specifically because of that. One of our scripters transformed something that was a piece of scenery into an interactive object. And so we do these regular reviews of the content, and we're looking at this thing that's pretty cool. And so then the interactive object became a situation. And so we looked at that situation and said, oh, that's really cool. And then that situation became a scene where you can recruit a follower. And it said, whoa, this is really, really cool. And then now there's an entire movement within the company trying to make this follower into a companion, which is where I said, okay, stop. So we're not going to start doing, otherwise we're never going to end. But it's a very cool example of how the game gets better, how it gets evolves pretty much like a tabletop campaign would go together with the players. In this case, the players are the developers. And it's also something I'm very proud of what the team did, because you literally have to realize that what you're about to see right now, 2 weeks ago, did not exist.
Quindi adesso ci stanno versando per mostrare un content che 2 settimane fa non esisteva ed è nato così per caso. No, lui ha raccontato un po' tutta la storia che adesso la vediamo. Oh, e dai, ok.
You've come to save us from this place. From this place, you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
C'è anche la voce del DM, sentite fuori.
Before they return. They return. A newborn. Born new from this husk.
Mamma mia, bellissimo.
Intellect Devourer, a minion of the Mind Flayers who abducted you.
Eh sì.
Remove us from this body. From this case, free us.
So come noi quando giochiamo, capi? Per loro è la stessa cosa, si divertono così. Break the school. Guarda il tiro del dado, Ale. 17.
You notice edema, a swelling of the brain causing pressure where it strains against the shell of the skull.
Allora, deve fare più di 11. Gli è andata bene, è successo. Oh Cristo.
The brain lifts from the skull. But you notice an opportunity. You could cripple the strange creature, making it more subservient, should it prove a threat.
Allora, la voce fuori campo sta dicendo: sei riuscito a fare questo, però ora cosa vorresti fare? No, potresti fare questo. Proprio come il DM, no? È meravigliosa sta cosa.
Creature seems unaware of your interference. It relaxes in your hands.
È un divoracervelli!
The creature pauses, listening. Something behind your eyes seizes in recognition.
We must go to the house.
Da quanto hai iniziato, Dani? Alle
You're
7.
needed.
Ciao, Dani.
Us. We are us.
Ciao, Simone. Ciao, Roberto.
To the helm we go. We are going to the helm.
Isn't that awesome?
All right, well, we got to find out a little bit more lore about this friend, the Intellect Devourer. Chris, tell us about an Intellect Devourer.
First of all, that was super gross, but also awesome. Intellect Devourers are creatures made by
Intellect
mind
Devourers, li chiamano in inglese i divoracervello, cioè proprio divoratori di intelletto, no?
Now, what's dangerous about an Intellect Devourer, once it's been created, is it itself has these psychic powers and can psionically or psychically bombard you, causing your brain essentially to turn to slush. And then once it has destroyed the brain in your skull, it teleports into your skull, replaces your brain, and basically operates you like
Sven's got one right there.
Sta dicendo come fa il divoracervelli a prendere possessione, no, della persona. Lui letteralmente rimpiazza il cervello della persona dopo che ha mandato questa specie di onde che praticamente dissolvono, credo, il tuo cervello, una cosa del genere, e poi lui lo va proprio a
I interrupted you.
cioè lo ricambia proprio, cioè si mette proprio al suo posto.
Obviously disturbing is you could be talking to somebody and not realize that their brain has been
Esatto,
replaced with an
eccolo
Intellect
là,
Devourer.
Sven.
They're basically you're into a meat puppet.
Not me though.
So,
All right.
so
I could be
the
an
thing is in
Devourer.
Guarda che si è messo
There you go.
quell'armatura pesante,
So
raga, che
in
non si riesce anche
BG2, actually, because of
a...
the tadpole that you have,
Con la maiella che
you learn that
schifezza.
you can actually communicate with all these mind flayer related creatures, and you can command them, they can try to command you, so you got this entire interaction going on with them. But just going back to what I said before, I thought it was pretty amazing that the team managed to pull off this scene so fast. And it goes to show what we've been doing all these years as we've been working on BG3. We made this gigantic, how shall I call it, situation production machine, where if somebody comes up with a great idea, they can put it into the game fairly fast, link it to everything in there. They got a whole bunch of tools that support them. Because now that us is, because that's what its name is in the tutorial, other characters had to react to it. Is it present in your party? Is us following you? So they need to start reacting to that. So that's the permutations that Adam was talking about. And that came about really fluently when you looked at it, how the development of it.
Comunque secondo me stanno a fare un lavorone questi, raga.
Writer jumped on it.
Stanno a fare proprio un lavorone.
The entire art team jumped on it together with the animators, the cinematic guys, the sound guys, the voice guys. There's a lot of talent in just making that little scene that needs to be there. And I just find it amazing that they can get this.
Per fare quella scena ci sono stati tante persone dietro
We
comunque.
started working on VG3 back in 2017. So we have now this huge machine that can support lots of choices, and we're heavily abusing it. Let's put it that way.
Never-ending content, but yeah, that's I
Parliamo
mean,
anche
that's a
dello
fun sequence,
sviluppo.
and obviously, you guys have been building so much.
Mi è piaciuto
content
molto
that we
come
talk about. I mean,
funziona
the
il
amount
tiro
of
del
stuff that's
dado
really
comunque
accessible
sul
gets to,
CD
pretty blown
di
away with what you guys put
successo
together.
o insuccesso
So
di
let's
quello che
check
vuoi
in with our
provare a
friend
fare.
Pressure now and see what the audience wants to do next. We have the results of the poll in, and it looks like 41% of you picked to intimidate him with how about you kiss my feet instead. So
Senti che casino che fa.
put the audience in. Let's take a look.
Ok, vediamo un po'. Ma che sbaglia a cambiare scena? Ah, di nuovo qui siamo. Ma perché l'inquadratura del piede? Vediamo. 14, questo è difficile. Questo è un fail.
That's exactly what they deserve for not listening to me.
You ain't got nothing on me, so kiss my foot.
I suggest an apology.
That's
I do
like
too.
it.
Ah, e mo glielo frega.
All right. I couldn't read what you did, Nick.
All right.
Io non lo farei mai.
All right, the next choice there. 4 more options. So again, in the chat, take your pick there about how you want to kiss the foot, and then we'll follow that up in a second and see what people select this time around. All right, so we've seen a glimpse of.
Io farei sotto
goblins,
destrezza, bacia il piede e
devours.
fregagli l'anello.
A lot of folks watching this, I think, want to know.
Oppure mi
early
tirerei
access. We're going to
indietro.
get a date out of you, but also like the content of a. What can we expect in terms of this?
Mo aspettano che la chat, voi la chat non la vedete, raga, perché l'ho nascosta, non la vedo anche io, però in chat loro fanno le domande e aspettano che loro
I'll
scelgano.
take this actually.
Okay, Adam. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to take it, Sven. I think that, as you say, you've already seen, just for early access, you've got multiple planes of existence. We're showing you Avernus. We're then taking you to Faerun, and when you get to Faerun, you're going to see dungeons and dragons, which you might expect. You're going to see temples. You're going to see a big chunk of gameplay on the surface world. A lot of them we haven't shown yet. You'll get to meet those goblins. You get to meet a lot.
Quindi il gameplay che vedremo è nuovo, ragazzi, non l'abbiamo mai visto.
Teased the Underdark. He will be going to the Underdark. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of secrets.
L'Underdark, ci saranno i templi.
You're going to meet a lot of different characters. Some of them you may recognize if you're a D&D fan. You already met Volo previously, and he made a brief cameo, I think, earlier today.
Ci saranno diversi personaggi, alcuni dei quali potremo anche riconoscere se conosciamo la lore o abbiamo giocato anche i capitoli precedenti, probabilmente.
And of course, there's going to be a lot of monsters on the surface and in the Underdark, and those monsters include.
Ok, vediamo.
A bullet. Now, Chris,
Okay.
can you tell us what a bullet is?
Che?
Yeah, a bullet is a terrifyingly large monster that sometimes goes by the name land shark. And what it does, as its name suggests, is it burrows under the ground just below the surface, churning up the earth as it goes while it hunts. And then when it sees something it wants to eat on the surface, it bursts up out of the ground to chomp on it. And it's big and terrifying. That's all I'll say.
I mean,
Anche
you have
io.
so much content
Anche
in
io,
EA.
vabbè.
I know we're talking about
Abbassate
about,
la
20 plus
qualità.
hours of stuff for folks
Antonio,
to,
abbassa la qualità
play
dello
around with.
streaming.
So,
Se ti si
lots
blocca.
of stuff to it. And I think people probably want to know also about, the classes, like, what classes are going to be available, what level will we be able to reach in early access. Can you give us any kind of details there, Sven, on what we can expect?
Yeah and no. So because we are since we're still building the early access content, we're still slightly hesitant to announce all of the classes that are going to be in there. But I think that we should be able to cover at least a few of them. Chris, what did you play actually for the moment? What is it? What would you play?
So I often play rogues. I'm also a fan of fighters, and I like rangers because they're in touch.
Allora,
with
Chris
the
di solito
primeval
gioca
natural
ladro,
world.
però gli piacciono i guerrieri
Well,
ed
we'll
è
have
anche
all of those
fan
covered,
dei
so that's
Rangers.
already something.
Oh.
And there will be more. So we'll have a selected. We'll have a action of
Gli
classes
piace
that
tutte
are gonna be
cose,
in there.
insomma.
We'll have quite a few races, quite a few sub-races.
Io il mio nano non lo farei mai inginocchiare davanti a un goblin per baciargli il piede, parliamoci chiaro, gli avrei distrutto l'intero villaggio.
So when you'll see character creation, we should
Non
be presenting
scherziamo,
enough.
tutto c'è un limite.
You will see, you get a lot of customizability. As a matter of fact, later on the stream, we'll show a bit of gameplay that I just stumbled upon by fooling around in character creation and like just picking an option and said, oh my god, I start with that and now I can do that, and that is really cool. So you'll be able to create a wide selection of custom characters.
Allora non vedo l'ora di vedere il gameplay, ragazzi.
Play up to level 4. Now, before you go saying, what, only level 4? Level 4 in Dungeons & Dragons is actually quite a lot already. Can you maybe help us explain that, Chris?
Sure. Well, the good news is that you're not as frail as you were when you were level 1, so you can take a bit of punishment. But more importantly is once you get to level 4, you've already made some key character-defining decisions. For instance, your class, you've chosen a subclass, which is sort of like a way to specialize within your class.
Non ho capito, a livello 4 scegli una sottoclasse, una specializzazione? Funziona così la 5.0, Ale?
Customize your character and gives your character access to new ability. And obviously if you're a spellcaster, by the time you hit 4th level, you're starting to get some fairly interesting spells.
Oh.
Can you handle a bullet?
Even at level 4. Yeah, I was going to say, you're still going to struggle when we throw a land shark at you. You're still going to get shot.
Yes.
But thankfully, you're traveling alone. In early access, there are 5 companions that you can recruit that you'll meet during your journey.
Quando fa lo scattino, ragazzi, non è la mia connessione, sono loro.
You will have met some of them already. You've been following our development.
Sappiatelo.
But here's a quick rundown. So there's Will. He's a human warlock. You might feel either very at home or very alarmed by where I am right now. The Shadowheart, who's a dark cleric on a mission from her goddess.
E il terzo.
Very unusual character. He's a vampire spy.
Oh, ok, quindi funziona così. Ok.
Lysel, who's a Githyanki warrior, who you see in the CGI intro. You see the Dragon Riders there as well.
Sì, avevo capito.
With that group, but they are
Quindi dice, quando sei a livello 4 sei già, diciamo, un personaggio, diciamo, che ha già scelto più o meno dove andare, dove ti sei voluto indirizzare. Ecco.
We'll say no more about that.
Now, with all these companions, I think everyone wants to know, can friends play companions? Are we going to get multiplayer in, at least in EA?
So, not instantly. So we'll introduce you to play as one of the origin characters later on. That'll give people the opportunity to get to know the companions from a third-person point of view, if you want, just by recruiting them. Gotta say, depending on which companions you pick, we talked about permutations earlier, you'll get a completely different experience. Like if you, for instance, if you take Shadowheart,
wow,
they can't stand each other, so that gives you completely different.
Il gioco cambia a seconda anche dei compagni che tu scegli. Cioè, se tu scegli un compagno invece di un altro, hai un'esperienza di gioco completamente diversa. Ciao, Vincenzone.
You'll be able to play with a party of up to 4. You'll be able to play online. You'll be able to play in LAN. We won't have split screen.
Si può giocare online, si può giocare in LAN addirittura. Cioè, proprio come una volta, vai you.
So there's going to be quite a lot of things that you can fool around with, because between
Mose
the class choices
Folk.
that you have and the race choices that you'll have and the choice of companions that you can have, that's already when you start adding
Secondo
up all
me
the
sì, perché è
permutations,
tanto
then you see
rosso,
what
guarda
it means
là.
in game to have made those choices. That's already a lot of content that is going to be present in there.
A lot of content.
Yeah.
Un
You
sacco di
talked a little earlier about like
contenuti.
still figuring out quite what
Non
classes
vedo
we
l'ora
develop.
che c'è sto
I mean,
gioco,
it's like
vai
there's still
giù.
things to be done.
Sta
but I
cambiando
know we're
colore.
gonna pin you down on a date by the end of the stream, you promise.
Ma
What is
lo
there
vedete
left
che
to
sta
do
immobile?
kind of
Perché se si
between
muove, raga,
now
fa
and
un
when
casino
you let the
assurdo.
world in for early access on the game?
So I don't think we're going to add much more characters like us last minute anymore. So that was just really because they were still working on the tutorial area. I have to say the tutorial area is not finished yet, so we need to finish that one. We got the Act 1 that Adam talked about. That's done. So all the content is there. We're still balancing. There's some assets like the bullet that we talked about earlier on. Right now it looks like a bear because it's using the place order for bear, but soon
Which
it
is
will- it's going to be
terrifying
in
when
there.
it comes out of the ground.
It's pretty cool actually. It chases you around the Underdark, so it comes out at the most inopportune of times. So it's rather interesting encounter, especially because it mingles with other encounters and you don't know when it's going to happen, and it's like it freaks the hell out of you because you're almost dead and then suddenly the bullet is there and you say no. Like, so we'll see how that works in early access if people hate it or not. We're doing play.
Oh raga, come esce l'early access io lo compro e poi ce lo vediamo in live, sappiatelo.
In the next couple of days, and
Quindi-
so that will be going on until early access.
Vediamo un po',
We'll do balancing against them. We'll get rid of the most obnoxious UI things that might be in there that we have overlooked. So we'll try to fix the most prominent bugs. And then the last bit that is really, if there's one thing that at this point I think might cause a slight delay, in addition to the date that I'm about to announce.
Oh my God! Here's the asterisk.
This is it's the asterisk. It's the optimization. So the game is coming out for both PC and Stadia. We want to get the minimum specs fairly low, so that a lot of people can already start fooling around with it. So there's a bunch of optimizations that need to happen, and optimizing is a very
Scusate.
special
Attenzione.
in the sense that every single time you
Sì,
optimize
sì,
something,
quando dicono
then
cose
you
pesanti
discover what the
traduco.
next thing is that you have to optimize.
Watch.
So you guys are really driving blind in the realm of obstacles of optimization. So they're feeling moderately optimistic. I mean, I had a lunch with them today, and they were in a good mood, so that's good. Because usually they're panicking. So we'll see how it goes.
PC e Stadia,
it's looking okay.
sì.
And,
Accesso anticipato credo da prima su PC e poi arriverà anche su Stadia. Lo hanno assicurato. Se avete Google
We still
Stadia.
get data. Don't pull the date at the end. We need to get dates.
No.
Obviously, there's so much to this. We will give you guys a date. Don't worry. But Sven's always super on.
Se non vi preoccupate, vi daremo la data. Yamma bella.
So yeah, we want to talk a bit more, I think, about the gameplay of what you're going to get in early access on Act 1. But before we do that, let's check back with Crusher to see what you guys picked.
Vediamo chi ha scelto la chat sul nano di baciare i
looks like
piedi.
65% of you picked to kiss his foot and attempt to steal the
La
ring.
mia
So we're
stessa
about to see
scelta, quella di baciargli il piede e rubare l'anello, anche se per me è molto forzata. Vediamo che succede. Magari un anello più 2. Vediamo se gli riesce. Che fail!
Good riddance. You deserve all of that. You didn't listen to what I said.
Lavender gives way to the muddy taste of something better left without description.
You enjoying that? Disgusting, slimy.
Non c'è riuscito.
I'll rip your fingers off.
Eccoli qua, e vai che si combatte. Guardate il combattimento, è a turno, Guardate. È a turno. Ma è stronzo.
In the making.
Bellissimo, questa è la parte che ci piace a noi, Ale.
This is not going to end well. Although Nick, I mean, like, I didn't introduce him. He's our lead system designer, so he might actually manage to get something sorted out. I wanted to chat about something, as we'll let Nick in the background do.
Allora raga, sappiate che Sven, che poi è il, diciamo, il direttore dei Larian Studios che stanno sviluppando il gioco, quando presentarono per la prima volta il gameplay di Baldur's Gate, fu in grado di schiattare non appena creato il personaggio al primo scontro. Le risate che ci siamo fatti, guarda. Ci da un attimo la porta arriva.
Early access compared to previous early access, like this is a lot of content, right?
Thank you, Jeff. I wanted to drop that because I looked up the numbers.
Cioè, è proprio come non saper giocare al gioco che sto sviluppando.
So, Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access has 80 potential combats compared to 22 or 2 as Early Access version. The dialogue lines in Original Sin 2, we had 17,600 lines in all of Act 1. We have 45,980 lines at the moment in BG3. When you look at the amount of spells and actions that are available from the get-go in early access,
sta parlando di quante linee di dialogo e di cose hanno nel gioco, ha detto delle cifre assurde, ragazze. Ragazzi. Ragazze, scusate, ragazze e ragazzi.
And here we have 596 in BG3's early access version. So I'm saying these numbers because it doesn't mean that you're going to play that much longer when you're going to play the early access version of BG3 compared to those two, but it's just testimonial to the amount of choices that you're going to get to make, because you won't have to do those 80 fights. It really depends on what choices you made. You will never see 46,000 lines of dialogue. It really depends on which.
Dice, non le vedrai mai tutte, anche perché dipende dalle tue scelte, no? Perché se fai delle scelte poi cambia a seconda di come ti vuoi muovere. Quindi dice, ma già nell'early access, nell'accesso anticipato ci sarà tanto da leggere e da vedere.
I mean, I think Adam, maybe you can chat a little bit about what that means on your side, from where you're sitting when you're writing these dialogues.
Yeah, I mean
lui scrive i dialoghi. Senior writer, c'è pure scritto, scusate.
The quality and that they are responsive to the way you play. So we don't want to deliver 45,000 lines of dialogue to you as a speech. We want you to discover them. We want you to interact with them. We want these to feel like conversations. So you're going to get, on a playthrough, the ones that feel right for your playthrough. And I'm going to do something that I'm going to implore you all now. We know that most people tend to be good people when they play CRPGs. It's the metrics show us that. What I'm going to ask to do, if you play early access, use as an excuse to do the bad thing.
Ok, allora ha detto un consiglio, dice di solito quando le persone giocano i giochi di ruolo, soprattutto i CRPG, che sono questi qua, no? La Baldur's Gate appunto, tendono ad essere buoni, e lui sta dicendo no, nell'early access provate invece un attimino a dare risposte cattive, non buone. Sono curioso.
You can probably justify it because you're in a bad situation, but you can also just be really bad. And when you're going to meet some of these,
e noi lo proveremo.
596, some of those characters you'd never speak to, some you just kill if you're playing the good option, and some of them have really interesting stories to discover. So I beg of you, be evil just this once.
Dice, vi prego, vi supplico, siate malvagi. E allora lo proviamo, raga.
And this all goes back to
se volete ce lo vediamo, perché sarà simile. Sarà simile. No, ci dobbiamo giocare gli altri Baldur's Gate. Il primo e il secondo. Sono due capolavori, raga. iPad 3000.
We lost Chris there.
Lost Chris's audio for a second. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I was muted. My dog was barking. I'm sorry. So I muted myself. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Flirting with evil has been a part of D&D since the beginning. It's good not to be evil.
Beh, fateci vedere qualcos'altro.
But once in a while, you can make the story go in a fascinating direction.
È giusto, vabbè.
One thing that we talked about. Options, obviously, good versus evil playthroughs, but let's also talk about permutations and the further expanded set of options.
Scusate raga, ma
in the,
stanno di là
in the
che si
game.
stanno
How is that
preparando
gonna
la
work,
cena, quindi sentirete un po' di casino.
in the game in terms of
Abbiate
permutations and
pazienza.
choices?
So it
You wanna
begins.
take that, Adam?
Yeah. It starts like for us, it's like we're inviting you into our world, into our campaign, into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. And from the minute that you choose your class and your race, we're paying attention as writers and as designers. And the world's going to react to that. It's going to react to who you are at the beginning of your adventure. But more importantly, and the more complicated part is it's going to react to the things that you do. Your party is going to react to the way that you behave. Your party is going to react to each other. They're going to have these
Chi è il barba?
relationships that develop. What we want to do is we want the world to always...
Anto, hai risolto il buffering?
It's a lot of work to make sure that you can get all that. And that's what we mean by permutations. We mean reactivity. We mean a world that makes you feel like you're really part of it, and that we've invited you in and we've let you play with it, and it will react to you, not just tell you its story. And it's a lot of work. And if you think of it from the DM perspective, we have this huge detailed world that we've created, all these different quests and storylines. And what happens sometimes is you invite somebody like Sven into them, and they do something that you didn't expect, and something which says, oh, you know what, I'm not going to engage with this stuff, I'm going to do something completely different. This is what Sven discovered the other day.
Yeah,
you want to tell me what you did, Sven?
I was fooling around with character creation, and I always want to see how I can break the game. That's pretty much my job description. And so I picked a ranger, and so I had a class passive that I could select, so I picked beast taming because I read that it was going to give me a cantrip which allows me to find a familiar. I always liked familiar, so I said, well, I want a familiar, so let's try it out and see what damage I can do.
Okay, ottimo.
I liked it because level 1 character, here I instantly could go and get a recruit that familiar. And so, Nick, can you fire that up? Is that going to work out?
Ok.
Right.
Questo è un ranger.
Trova
il famiglio.
I think it was disastrous. So here he is
un ragno.
summoning a spider. So he has a whole bunch of familiars that he could have picked. He could have picked a crab or a cat or a raven or something more interesting.
Bellissimo.
Also pretty cool. And the thing is that
lo puoi controllare.
So
Guardate lì.
And I actually took that spider. I went the entire other side of the world, and so I went with my spider and I listened in on conversations, and I went to look at what all the evil guys were up to, and the amazing thing was that in general it actually worked. And so that was pretty cool. So I called.
Cioè, lo puoi proprio andare in giro, puoi andare ad origliare le conversazioni, fare le cose. Assurdo! C'ha le sue abilità, vedete?
Allows you to do a whole bunch of things. But the spider can also cause mayhem. Can you go in and bite maybe? So this is a little bit further. There's a character called Shadowheart. She's one of your companions. So maybe bite her in her leg or something. There we go. Up. Ooh,
La morsa!
Critical hit.
Oh, she didn't feel it. Do it again, Nick.
Oh my god.
Oh, she doesn't react.
What?
She's supposed to react. Oh no, it's failing live.
Ma c'è sempre qualcosa che non funziona.
Okay, she's reacting. I guess she didn't feel it through her channel there. So,
avrebbe dovuto reagire da subito, ma non ha reagito.
I'm going to put a leash on this because that's normally what a developer would do, right?
La stava pizzicando male.
It's going to break the entire game. You have to make sure that you can maximum go 20 meters away or some silly rule like that. And so we looked at each other and I said, nah, we're just going to leave it in there. I mean, it worked for the most cases, so let's see if the scripters can make it work across the entire game. And so the one limitation that we put on there is that the spider can't go through doors. So that's it. They can't open
ok, l'unica limitazione è che il ragno non può andare attraverso le porte. Però hanno dice di lasciarla nel gioco questa cosa perché è interessante. Effettivamente può essere usata come una, cioè come strategia, no?
People start looking at the cat, which is great for your rogue as he's sneaking through somewhere in the dark. So all this systemic gameplay comes into play just by that one little choice, you know. I just selected beast taming. It gave me a cantrip. Find familiar, and now I have all these new options. So now imagine that you're playing in multiplayer and you're doing all these crazy things. And now imagine that you're the script who have to think of all the permutations that are going with this. So that is one of the things when we're talking about permutation. But we have more actually. Nick, could you manage to get yourself into a situation with, he has all these save games, and so can you get into a situation with animal empathy or an animal talking while maybe Chris explain to people what the difference is between animal handling and speaking with animals?
Allora c'è la differenza tra empatia animale e parlare con gli animali.
Can we jump back to Chris, please? Yeah.
Ok.
We can't hear him. We're muted.
È ancora mutato questo.
Animal handling. You can hear me now, though, right? Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
So
yeah.
animal handling is a skill in D&D, and you use it to convince animals to do things, and it's not like you're communicating with them specifically. These are animals you're not talking to. You're just saying, okay, there's a horse over there that doesn't like me. I want to change its mind about me. Or there's a wolf that wants to eat me. I'm going to try to persuade it not to, or maybe feed it some other food and convince it to leave me alone. Those are great uses for the animal handling skill. Whereas speak with animals, the spell allows you to have a two-way conversation with a beast.
C'è proprio l'incantesimo, parlare con gli animali.
For the game, we looked at animal handling, and we obviously had done a game in which you could speak with animals with Divinity Original Sin and say, so what are we going to do? Are we going to put animal handling in, yes or no? Because it actually means we need 3 dialogues.
Handling.
The dialogue when you
Cosa
click on
intende
an
con
animal,
handling
where you're
per
just not
ora?
handling the animal. We need
Handling.
the dialogue that you're handling the animal. We need the dialogue that you're speaking with the animals. It means every single animal is going to come with at least 3 dialogues, not counting the permutations that are going to come out of this. And so then we looked at each other and said, well, we have no choice really, we have to do all of it. And so this is how we brought animal handling to the game, as many other things. And so we'll have a look at what animal
handling with animals sarebbe avere a che fare con gli animali. Infatti lui diceva, no, cioè tipo se c'è un cavallo che per esempio a cui non piaccio, io voglio provare a cambiare questo suo atteggiamento verso di me, o un lupo che mi vuole mangiare, provare a dire, cioè a fargli cambiare idea che non mi deve mangiare, magari dandogli un pezzo di carne. E invece poi c'è appunto invece proprio il parlare con gli animali. Okay.
Excellent, because that's literally what we said. And so
I was gonna say, it's like it's already
owlbear.
Ma sono belle ste cose.
You know, you've got living things you can speak to, obviously. Owl bears, spiders.
We're gonna see the owl bear, right?
We should see the
we're gonna show it?
Parlare. Chissà come l'hanno resa questa cosa. Vediamo.
If you watch this, that Chris just referred to this as a monstrosity.
Madonna che bella la grafica, raga, però guardate che roba. E l'accesso anticipato.
Oh.
È un grifone, è un orso gufo. Oh.
Wow, this is cool.
He's gonna try animal handling now. So bear in mind if you had 18 animals you could have talked to.
C'è acchiappata.
The owl's one good eye flicks away for a moment. You follow its glance.
Oh, c'è il piccolo.
An owlbear.
Quindi è indifensivo lei, no? O lui.
So we're not going to spoil everything tonight.
Ha detto non andiamo a spoilerare tutto, però ci hanno fatto vedere solo sta cosa. Dai.
Leads up to multiple other situations in which you find that Owlbear Cup, and if you really play your cards well and your dice roll well, then you can actually recruit that Owlbear Cup in your camp, and then you can see the things that happen in your camp. Now, it wouldn't be BG3 if
alla faccia del non spoiler, ha detto che se ti giochi bene il tuo personaggio i dadi ti accompagnano, addirittura puoi reclutare l'orso gufo e portarlo nel tuo accampamento, se ho capito bene.
Wake up one morning and your favorite pet dog might have had a small accident. So these are things that you need to take into
consideration che figata!
As you're playing the game, but they're the cool fun situations that roll out. And all of this is brought to you cinematically also throughout the entire game. And that's where those well, not only
wow, raga, madonna che belle cose.
Of things that bloated or dialogue counts.
Ci te lo spoileriamo, infatti.
I was gonna say, it's like there's even more, right?
Eh sì, mi hanno visto
we
giocare.
thought you can speak to the animals, you can do the
Vabbè,
animals.
tanto a me i dadi non mi accompagnano con la sfiga che ho. Fallirò tutti i CD, raga, tutti i check proprio.
There are other things that you can speak to in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and that's dead things. So we also allow you to speak dead because we didn't have enough dialogues already. And thankfully, Dungeons and Dragons does have a rule for that. So Speak with Dead is implemented in the game. If Chris, you could just explain how that works in 5th edition?
Non ho capito.
This is necromantic energy, and it allows you to have to ask
Lui lagga, non lo si capisce.
questions of a corpse. Now, the corpse needs to be relatively intact so that it has like a working mouth or something it can use to.
Ah, sta parlando del
That's
necromante.
one condition. The other, of course, is the corpse only knows things that happened prior to death. It's
Ah, parlare con i morti.
also the corpse is not always necessarily friendly.
Ma lagga, caspita, non si capisce.
As precise an answer as you want.
So when we were implementing this,
Chris, you cut away from me there. Did you guys hear Chris? I didn't hear him. Ah, you're back now.
Yeah, he's back. He's back, back alive.
Okay, I didn't. There's nothing wrong my end. It was just something in the
Ok,
system.
stava crashando.
But,
Comunque da quello ho
I was gonna
capito,
say, so
raga,
Speak with Dead
che
is a
andava
spell that
a
lets you
singhiozzi.
talk to the corpse.
Praticamente per fare questa cosa qua il corpo deve essere,
yeah,
deve essere abbastanza intatto. No, non può essere una cosa no, già consumata, ok. E da quello che ho capito, comunque ci sono soltanto dei tipi di domande che puoi fare, proprio come funziona l'incantesimo, giusto parlare con i morti. E non è che il morto poi ti dice esattamente tutto, no? Ci sono anche delle diverse risposte, eccetera, eccetera. Un po' quando lo usa Ubaldo, Ale. Esatto.
And we've implemented as close as to D&D rules as we could, and we've got a pretty cool take on it, I think. And I think we can look at one of those, right?
Cioè non è che ti ci metti a fare il dialogo, no?
So this is actually on the very beach where you will crash with your nautiloid after you played the tutorial area. So we've shown this area before.
Eccolo qua,
But
Speak
there's
with
bonus line
Dead.
there. So he's
Mo lo fa
going to
vedere, vedete?
Take a scroll, Speak with Dead, and then he's gonna have a chat. So,
Ecco qua. Che figata.
Marcus, fisherman.
obviously
The crash came quick. Trying to help folk.
Ma guarda che figata.
I personally wouldn't have wasted my scroll to
Come
this
sei
area.
morto?
I think that was a really good idea. But anyway, so again, we're not going to start
basta.
spoiling things too
Vai,
much.
non ci vado a
because
vedere
we want players to
tutto.
discover things for themselves.
Applauso, raga, è
But so when you add all
stupenda
of
sta
these things,
cosa.
now suddenly that number of 45,000 starts making sense, especially when you then take all of the different types of playthroughs that you can have. Of
Superiore.
so it is
Ci vuole il
incredibly
superiore.
and a lot of choices that are made available to you as a player. In this particular case, Chris, which classes can you use Speak with That as? Because not everybody can use Speak with That, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you have a spell scroll, that's really handy. But a cleric, for instance, is very handy with Speak with Deads. And
Quindi
so
se
if
hai
you
una
have a cleric
pergamena,
party, that's a
tutti
good
in
start.
teoria possono parlare con i morti, possono
that's
lanciare
another example of how, which
l'incantesimo.
classes you have in your when you actually define what gameplay options are going to be available to you.
Vabbè, sicuramente dovrà aver utilizzare
When
oggetti
the full version
magici,
of the game is gonna release
suppongo.
and we'll have all classes in there. It's going to become very, very hard.
Cioè, perché
to
se
get
sono un
out
cazzo di
there.
barbaro ignorante, come la leggo la
Decisions that will have
pergamena?
lots of
Scusate.
ramifications, as you go across the game. I got news from Crusher, so it didn't end well.
What's the latest? What's the
Noi eravamo arrivati al 40 con la vecchia.
I'm picking up that he died miserably. All right? And
Yes,
so
that's
he
what I
hasn't
heard.
been able
Adesso è
to get back
sbloccato
into the-
l'uso.
into the
Ah,
situation
ok.
that so we're not
Noi
gonna
eravamo
see
arrivati al 40,
the end
Rob,
of
io ero un
Crusher,
ranger.
unfortunately. So that's going to bring me probably closer to one of the problematic things, which is going to be the release date, I guess. Is that correct?
Sì, però prima di arrivare al
This is the
40.
awkward part of the
Vabbè.
stream, but we
Abbiamo
are
giocato
going
per
to
più di
do
10
a
anni.
Q&A at the end for the community as well. So if you guys have questions for these guys, that's your next interactive thing to do in chat. Is you're not going to get to pick the final question from all, but you can throw a question at these guys. So put those in the chat,
Giusto,
and then at the
Ale?
end we'll come back and do some Q&A with these guys as well, on what happened. But yes, we are going to talk about the
Noi
early
abbiamo il
access release date in a
castello,
minute
le
here.
cose.
But let's,
Io ero un
let's talk like
conte.
philosophically about
Io
early
avevo la
access. You're here addressing
contea.
many of the fans watching are folks that are going to be, I'm sure, jumping into early access.
Oh no, o
What
ero il
does that
baronato,
kinda
non mi ricordo
mean
se era
to
una
you
contea o un
as a
baronato.
studio? Like, how are, early access is a term that people throw around in a bunch of different ways, and sometimes
Non
it's just,
proprio, però,
literally a
c'avevamo i
marketing
draghi
data or
nel
something. I mean, I know
cortile.
that you guys treat this as part of the
Scherzo.
development of the game. Can you maybe talk a bit, Sven, like philosophically about like what you're looking as a studio to get out of early access? You'll get feedback, sure, but like how is it going to affect the game and your approach to finishing it up to 1.0?
I like that you're asking me these philosophical questions with a brain in my hand, so it's really cool.
Non ho capito la domanda che gli ha fatto Jeff, scusate.
Yeah, no. So we did early access for Original Sin 1, and we liked it a lot because it helped us to make Original Sin 1 a much better game. So we went full in for Original Sin 2 in early access, and that made Original Sin 2 a much better game. And so we're hoping to get the same out of early access for BG3. So we're going to go into early access, and we intend to stay there for a while as we improve everything that our community doesn't like about it.
Ok, quindi c'è adesso lo scopo è quello di lanciare l'accesso anticipato e stare comunque in questa versione del gioco per un po', in modo che possiamo anche fare degli improvement, nel senso migliorare quello che ci suggerisce anche la community, cosa non gli piace, cosa gli piace, insomma, muoversi in questa direzione, il che non è male.
So what are we looking at there?
That's for those two. That's a heat map of the early access part of Act 1, and that's where people were dying. So if you played those two and you look at the lower part on the left side, there's a big red spot. That's a guy named Migo. Everybody who played those two will remember Migo because everybody pretty much died there. So we could see that everything was as it should be. And so if the entire map becomes red, it means that we have problems. If we see, and then typically we're going to lower the difficulty of a fight. If we see that there's areas where nobody is coming, and then we say, okay, this is too hard to find, so maybe we should give a little bit of hints, and then we modify the level design a little bit. So it's things like that. But then it's also things like, are spells being used? Or maybe we should promote a class and explain to people, well, you can do these things.
Ma è assurda sta cosa.
No,
vabbè, sta dicendo un po' come sviluppano, hanno quelle zone là, hanno tutti quei colori lì, hanno tutto un significato. Tipo magari se una zona diventa troppo rossa perché nessuno l'ha trovata, significa che è troppo difficile da trovare. E quindi loro modificano il level design per renderla magari più accessibile. La stessa cosa alcuni punti dove praticamente diventano troppo rossi, dove la gente muore di più, quindi forse lì è troppo difficile e magari devono riadattarla ad una difficoltà leggermente inferiore per dare il modo di... sono bellissime queste cose, ma qua devi essere programmatore per capirle. Wow, bellissimo.
Hopefully the same thing is going to happen here with
bellissima sta cosa, chi la sapeva?
A rule book that's been around for some time that has so much fans into
Vabbè, se avessimo saputo, raga, non saremmo qui perché saremmo tutti programmatori, no?
And so we came up with our interpretation, but now we'll let the community judge it. And then if they come up with better ideas, same thing like what you saw with the internet.
La meritano 80 euro, yeah!
In the end, it is about, I guess, creating a story with the community, creating a...
Beh, Baldur's Gate io gli meno anche la 60, anche la 100 se faranno una collector.
In your campaigns, you go along with what people tell you.
Volevo
exactly.
dire.
D&D is a shared storytelling game. So best ideas come from all around, you know?
Non lo so, Roberto. Vediamo un po'.
I was just
Beh?
say, we know where our story's going, and we know the various terrible and wonderful ways
non
that the story
spoilerate
can
la
end,
storia
and different
però,
places it
ragazzi.
takes you to. But as storytellers, we want the audience to be part of that, and that works for me as a writer within Larian. You know, people play my work every day, people look at my work every day, and you become better through that. You become better by listening, you become better by engaging, and storytelling is very collaborative. So if there are characters, just as in a tabletop campaign, if there are characters that people particularly love or particularly hate, then we may notice.
Vabbè, ma stanno parlando un po' così della storia, no? Perché Dungeons and Dragons alla fine è un gioco dove si narrano storie, no? Uno storytelling game. E quindi ci sono persone magari che una certa storia può piacere, altre che la odiano.
Many of the people.
Vabbè, niente che ci interessi per ora sul gioco. Dateci qualcosa di...
You're on, Sven.
No, you're on.
Many people want to know with the... early access, most people watching this stream, I'm sure, are folks that are likely to probably jump into EA, but who is early access for? And when you think of it, I mean, it obviously is not a finished game, but something that I know you want to get as many people in to play it. But in terms of setting expectations and kind of the audience for it, who are you?
Dice, molti vogliono giocare l'early access, ovviamente, ma esattamente l'early access, l'accesso anticipato per chi è? Cioè, quale pubblico si può rivolgere miglior, in modo migliore?
Targeting. It's the person who wants a finished, polished game. They should wait. They should just wait until version 1.0, because we'll work very hard on making it as polished as we can, but it's not that yet. Early access is for fans who want to have a quick look, like in an early feel of what it's going to be like, and there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff to be seen already. So I think that's one group. And then it's also for people who really want to be part of development, who just want to give us as much feedback as they can, who will play over and over, and will just engage with us in the forums and just give us lots of data to look at, and also give us lots of ideas to work with. And so we had a lot of those in the past, luckily for both of the original sins, so we're hoping we'll see that with BG3 also.
Allora dice, se ti piace il gioco pulito, che gira bene, senza problemi, eccetera, allora non fa per voi, cioè statene alla larga. Se siete dei fan che volete uno sguardo veloce al gioco, allora sì, questo fa per voi. Oppure, e questo fa per noi, Ale, se vi piace partecipare, tra virgolette, allo sviluppo del gioco, mandando feedback su come la pensate voi, su come dovrebbe essere una certa cosa, allora sì, questa volta, cioè, questo è quello che fa per voi. E noi ce lo potremmo spulciare effettivamente, ragazzi. Potremmo partecipare con qualche feedback, tipo se non ci piace come funziona un incantesimo, una cosa, no? Non è male.
They can't wait to jump into, and again the production value looks incredible with all, the cinematics.
Se qualcuno sa l'inglese o sbagliato, ditemelo, Cioè, se voi cogliete qualche altro dettaglio, ditemelo.
Get that world premiere button ready, because are you ready to tell the world when early access is coming?
Yeah, I guess so. Hold on.
Ma ci dicono la data. È caduto.
Oh my god.
Che è successo? Te cretino.
That's my
Te cretino.
Let me try that again.
Eccolo. World premiere.
All right, well, anyway. All right, let me do it properly. All right, so.
World premiere.
There you go. So the date that we're targeting for the moment, and we think we have a really good chance of hitting, is September 30th. So on September 30th, hopefully you will find a game that's going to be fun to play from day one, that will still see a lot of improvements, that is waiting for your feedback, waiting for your data, and in which, if anything, should really try playing as an evil
Il 30 settembre.
All the things that are going to happen to you, because it has an enormous amount of permutations, because we said the word permutations a lot. So September 30th for PC and for Stadia simultaneously.
Oh, insieme! 30 settembre per Stadia e PC. Wow.
All right.
30th. All right. I mean,
there you say it's going to be clipped out on Twitch, so you got to stick to it now. But all right, so end of September.
I'll try.
For early access. But again, like, I think the scale of what you guys are doing. When we first started talking to you guys about this earlier this year, I was like amazed how far along you guys were with the game, and then the fact that you're going to hit with this, the Act 1 content in 6 weeks is amazing.
Sicuramente
I think
€35
we all
per
can't wait
PC,
to see
60 per Stadia.
everything that's in there. We've got a bunch of
Mannaggia.
questions for you guys that we've been grabbing from the streams on Twitch and YouTube from fans. So the community conversation, you guys are always great about talking to the fans, but I'm just going to go through some of these for you guys based on what the fans are saying and just get some reactions here for maybe like the next 15 minutes or so. So let's just jump into them. The first one comes from Matthias on YouTube, and he says, what have you guys done to preserve the D&D tabletop spirit in BG3?
Vabbè. Una domanda di uno della chat dice: che cosa avete fatto per mantenere lo spirito del gioco da tavolo?
It's across the entire studio is this bringing it to life. So I talk a lot about this idea of being your DM, and that's really, really true. That's like that comes from the heart. We want you to feel as if you're playing with us. Not that we're just telling you our story, but that you're playing it with us. And that's very, very true to my experience with tabletop D&D. And then there's all the people who are far, far smarter at this stuff than me, who are working to interpret systems, spells, classes. It's an incredible amount of work. And I live in D&D now. You know, I spend my days reading lore. I spend my days going back into the history. You know, this is the world I live in right now. And sharing it is a real privilege, you know. Like
oh wow,
it's such an expansive and brilliant place, and you can already see with some of the choices we've made. We want to explore the strange corners. We want to go to Avernus. We want to put you on a Nautiloid.
Lui dice che in questo momento, da quando è partito il tutto, lui sta letteralmente vivendo nel mondo di Dungeons and Dragons. Ogni giorno legge libri sull'ore, sulle cose per capire, quindi è veramente tanto lavoro. Cioè, cosa che vorrei fare è che voi viviate la storia insieme a noi, non soltanto che giocate. Quindi vogliamo proprio emulare quella cosa del Dungeon Master che racconta, no, la storia, che fa e dice, eccetera eccetera. Quindi questo bene o male è quello che vogliono fare, quindi rendere proprio il giocatore parte integrante di quello che stanno facendo del mondo appunto poi di Dungeons and Dragons.
Just said, and actually what Chris just said also, making sure that all those iconic creatures and locations are coming into the game. When you put all of that together, you feel like you're playing, hopefully, a virtual game master, and that just reacts naturally to whatever your choices were as a party. And it's great in multiplayer, but it's also great in single player.
Awesome. All right, next question comes from Twitch.
This
is from the T-Boys. And this person wants to know, which I think is a great question, what kind of feedback are the most helpful for you guys from early access?
No, Sven non si può prendere seriamente.
To share their thoughts and impressions with Larian. So how do you guys want people to, you know, they're obviously super devoted to helping you guys here. What's most helpful?
Aspetta.
Okay. So just playing is already very helpful. So you don't have to do anything because we are, well, actually, oh yeah, I lost my ear. So someone's gonna have to put back the ear because I can't put the armor. But just playing with, well, I still have the left ear, so I can hear you and move.
Oh my God! Here comes
just play the game, and yeah, you're gonna be on the camera.
Oh dear.
Yes, I want to send data to Larian. The only data that
ma gliela va a togliere, che sta succedendo?
Or data when you crash. That is already super helpful. If you want to go further, there's a variety of ways that you can reach us. You can reach us on social media. You can reach us on our own forums, the Larian forums. You can reach us on the Steam forums. You just
vabbè, niente, ma questo lo sappiamo.
We will pick it up. We have a community team, and they're looking at everything that people are.
Aveva perso la cuffietta e non sentiva più.
So we analyze this. So, and if somebody has an idea, you can rest assured that somebody in our Slack channel is going to tell us like, that was a great idea. You should really listen to that. And so that is a yes, that is a thing that you're going to a way that you will be able to reach us.
Mannaggia la miseria.
In a much less professional sense. I look everywhere, I absorb your memes, I love them.
Vabbè, gli ha chiesto qual è la cosa più che vi può essere più d'aiuto, no? E lui dice giocate, potete seguirci sui social network, anche fateci sapere tutto, beh, le solite cose, insomma. Più una cuffia che vola, il ciccio che passa gliela va a rimettere.
Discord, their popular place to talk about it. This is from the Wizard, and Wizard wants to know: will you add more races and classes during EA, or is what we get the first day all we can try out? Great question about sort of how early access is going to evolve, at least from a content perspective. What can you share?
Questa è interessante come domanda.
Okay, so yeah, no, classes are going to be added throughout EA, companions will be added, races will be added, features will be added. So a lot of the stuff that we advertised is present in early access, but there's more that we haven't advertised yet. And so you will see things pop in. And at the same time, you'll see the game change as we take the feedback into account.
Cioè, tutto quello che abbiamo annunciato sarà presente nell'early access. Ovviamente ci sono tante altre cose che non abbiamo ancora annunciato e che poi scoprirete, che quindi man mano verranno introdotte. Pop-in, esattamente, cioè che popperanno. Per dirla italianizzata. Il mezzorco cuffiatore!
I mean, like, original Sin 2, I think like every month stuff was being added, and so you'll see similar things happening with BG.
Ciao!
Awesome.
Fai il bravo, mo vengo.
Next question comes from YouTube. Verity wants to know: will there be romance options? What can you tell us about romance?
Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yes, there will. I don't want to say too much about them because you know, we don't want to get into too much spoiler territory. Romance is best discovered, you know, by yourselves. You don't want me to describe your romance to you. You want to experience.
Gli hanno chiesto se ci saranno le famose romance, no? I personaggi che si innamorano tra di loro. Sta rispondendo in modo vago perché dice non voglio spoilerare, non voglio dirvi esattamente, però ci saranno di sicuro.
It's literally one that we want you to discover, but we actually went quite far in everything that we put in there, so people will find it after playing the game.
I had no doubt that you have
Se ho capito bene la domanda, a meno che non abbia fatto qualche domanda particolare.
I don't know if you've thought of or it's possible. Victor on YouTube wants to know: can we pet the brain?
Comunque ci saranno tutti i tipi di romance, ragazzi. Figuriamoci, il political correct ce lo mettono di sicuro.
I was gonna say there'll be a Twitter account. Can you pet the brain?
You probably will be able to tomorrow now, so.
I was gonna say, you guys are listening. There's still 6 weeks till early access comes out.
Sì, l'ha detto che Adam ci sta proprio dando sotto. Si è proprio trasferito dai Forgotten Realms.
So, you know, tell us a bit about that. Like how much can you pick or build out kind of you know, background or origin story for characters?
Non ho capito.
There's a bunch of backgrounds in the game. So they have systemic benefits, which are going to help your characters throughout the game. What we didn't do, and because we did start with it actually, we had backgrounds actually also give you a whole bunch of options. But then as we started implementing the dialogue, we actually had quite a lot of problems with that because folk hero, for instance, you got a tag option inside of a dialogue that said folk hero. And then the question from the writer was,
non capisco.
Why are you a folk hero? What did you do as a folk hero? How did you get here as a folk hero? And so from the dialogue option point of view, the background options that were put into the game, we focused heavily on the classes and the races, and obviously on the things that you've done and earned throughout the game. But we didn't put the backgrounds in there, but at the systemics level, backgrounds do have an impact across all of your classes.
Okay. Good to know.
Non ho capito,
next question, you sort of hinted at this earlier. For Lark Arn wants to know, have all the recruitable companions been revealed, or are there more to come? And will the roster be comparable to previous Baldur's Gate games? It sounds like there will be more added, right?
Yeah, there will be more. There won't be as many as the previous Baldur's Gate games because we put a lot of extra stuff on our companions if you compare.
Ok, dice non ci saranno tantissimi compagni come c'erano nei primi Baldur's Gate, ma ci saranno. Ce ne saranno. Non così tanti, ma ce ne saranno, verranno aggiunti.
As a matter of fact, Adam is working very hard on his, and that one is not in the game yet. So not announced yet.
Però dice per compensare questa cosa ci sono anche tante altre feature in più che voglio dire, per compensare, no? Ci saranno nuove cose anche.
All right. Next batch of questions here. And both these questions are about roles, and they come from YouTube and
Vabbè, non che ce ne frega.
will there be a
non ci
combat
frega.
log
Fateci
that
vedere
shows the
qualcos'altro e
roles
poi andiamo a
occurring?
mangiare.
And also, are there stats with modifiers that get added to dialogue roles? We can tell us about that, guys.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
What?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Non ho capito.
Simple yes answer. I think
Yeah.
that's good news.
Yeah, no, I mean,
all right,
it's
and then
yes,
we've got.
Oh, mannaggia, non ho capito. Vabbè, è un sì. Quindi è buono per noi.
Great. Okay. And then we got one more question for you guys.
Allora, un'altra è una.
Let's see. This one comes from Robert Fulmer on YouTube, and he says, "How interactive will the world be? For example, could I shoot a chandelier and it fall on enemy?" Very specific example, but the idea of
Actually,
dynamic environments, emergent gameplay. You guys obviously are building an amazing.
Questo gli ha chiesto
world, so I
fino a che
imagine there are
punto
some
il
great
mondo sarà
emergent moments.
interattivo.
What are the kinds of things we can expect in EA, or what are some of those opportunities?
Well, you can. I think I demonstrated that in the previous gameplay stream, actually. Oh no, I didn't show it. Yes, right. It was in another.
Yeah, no,
So yes. No, I never showed it. Yeah. So the answer is yes. Yes. So
Yes.
So it's like
È estremamente interattivo. Nel senso che tu puoi colpire qualcosa, no, farla cadere e rompere tipo un'altra cosa con questa cosa che è caduta. Ma l'ha fatto vedere questa cosa qui, tipo lui ha fatto cadere dei pesi che stavano a mezz'aria, li ha fatti cadere sul pavimento, hanno praticamente sfondato il pavimento e aperto effettivamente una botola, un passaggio dove tu potevi andare poi. È una figata. No?
It's so important that you can actually jump on your enemy. From if you were a spider, you can just jump from the top on the enemy, and then just do damage to the enemy if you want.
Very authentic D&D experience.
Puoi fare veramente, c'è veramente una libera scelta su quello che si può
You
fare,
guys
ma
have
proprio
thought of it
assai.
all. Well, I have to say, like,
Veramente che c'ho
it's
fame.
awesome date for early access, end of September. You're on the record with that. It looks incredible,
Okay,
right?
stanno
Just the
facendo il
production
recap.
value of what you guys have been able to do, especially with that many dialogue lines in the middle of a pandemic with all the recording. I can't imagine what's gone into all the cinematic stuff and obviously the gameplay to get it to a point where you're comfortable enough to have people jump in for 20 plus hours of gameplay is pretty incredible. So September 30th on the record.
30
we'll see everyone,
settembre.
I guess, starting in hell for
Mettiamolo,
early
scriviamolo
access
sugli
of Baldur's
annali.
Gate 3 and Act 1. Want to thank Sven and Adam for putting this stream together, and the whole team really at Larian for the incredible work.
Uno stream un po',
to put things
una
together.
live un
And
po'
Chris,
laggosa,
thanks
però
for,
va
Thanks for
bene.
joining us as well. The one guy that wasn't in hell today. Having great fun on this, and this is a big moment for all of us that early access is coming. So anything else we should keep in mind before we say goodbye here, Sven?
No.
Si è bloccato
just,
Jeff.
If you want to stay tuned, follow us on our social media. It's coming for PC Stadia, September 30th. Be sure if you buy it that it's something that you want to play, that you want to participate.
Ciao Rob.
Otherwise, just wait.
Ciao caro,
Because
buona
1.0
cena.
It'll take some time, but when 1.0 is going to hit, it's going to be pretty good. That's it, I guess.
I gotta say, it's I've done a lot of live
Guarda
streams
come è
this summer,
rimasto,
but I have to
Madonna
say,
mim,
you
che
take
gli
the cake in
faranno
terms of the
ora?
setup and the fire and the armor. I don't know what happens after the stream.
It's pretty hot.
This is just what my office looks
Dani, quanti meme ci faranno con quella faccia di Jeff così?
That is ready for the feast. You light the candles after, I guess.
The people who decorated this, the people behind the scenes, thank you to everyone. This is hard to do as well during these times. We are socially distancing, we are COVID compliant. It takes a lot of work to put this all together. Thanks to everyone who helps out with that as well. Really appreciate
Agreed.
it.
It's
Thank you
and
for
it's
sending me to
great.
hell, guys.
You're gonna give people something to check out. End of September, so September 30th, early access for Baldur's Gate 3. Thanks for watching the stream and.
Ciao.
Stay tuned to the Larian socials for more updates on that early access day in Baldur's Gate 3. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Sven. Thanks, Adam.
Ciao, è finita ragazzi.
All right, see you guys soon.
È finita. Allora, beh, che devo dire? È stata veramente fighissimo. Cioè, wow. E niente, 30 settembre partirà l'accesso anticipato, ragazzi, poi ci torneremo. Allora, sono le 8:30, io stasera però non lo so se farò la live, non so voi come siete messi, però se verso le 10 magari ci siete, io un livellino del Beholder me lo menerei, cioè me lo farei, se no niente, ci aggiorniamo domani, poi magari ci mettiamo d'accordo sui cellulari eccetera eccetera. Ragazzi, davvero grazie per la compagnia, tante bellissime cose. Io secondo me Baldur's Gate sarà un giocone, però da qui a che insomma sulla carta è sempre tutto bello, poi bisogna vedere come rende il gioco nel vero senso della parola quando lo giocheremo per l'appunto, no? Quindi vediamo un po', è altissimo, scusate. Ok, allora niente ragazzi, ci fermiamo qui, ok? Ci andiamo a mangiare qualcosa. Che dite? Yam yam. Allora, grazie Dani, grazie. Allora, facciamo così, raga. Più tardi vediamo, se no poi direttamente a domani. Grazie per la compagnia. Va bene, Ale, poi ti scrivo. Vado a mangiare qualcosa e ti scrivo. Ragazzi, grazie di cuore, un abbraccione. Bellissimo, non vedo l'ora. 30 settembre giocheremo Baldur's Gate 3 in accesso anticipato. Detto questo, buon appetito, grazie ancora e alla prossima. Ciao ragazzi.